The Uncanny Counter, Part 1. The show begins as we see rain lashing down on a car driven by a couple. As the family listens to the results of the election, little So-Mum draws a picture of his family. They're quite a family unit, singing together and generally getting along. But only a phone call from Detective Ga throws Guan completely off guard. Bloodstained Ga tells him to stay alive. Shortly, he is surrounded by a group of thugs who push him off the roof, causing him to fall to his doom. He is not alone either. A truck hits Guan's car. So-Mum happens to be the sole survivor though, and as a masked person approaches him. We cut 7 years forward in time. Mun is grown now, with an injured leg, and lives with his grandparents. He hangs out with two of his friends, and on their way, they stop by Inu's Noodles. One of the workers, Hana, senses a level 3 evil spirit, so she rushes in to tell the others. They burst into action and shut down the place, leaving hungry Mun and his friend confused. The Noodle staff begin to chase the spirit, which Hanan sensed. She starts running after him, which sparks a rooftop chase. Soon, the man is surrounded, but he is far more powerful and manages to get away after using psychokinesis. Later, he is cornered in an abandoned station, but he kills Xiaojung by impaling him through the chest. As he collapses to the ground, the spirit sucks Xiaojung's spirit. But suddenly, he stops when a strange magical ball of energy floats outside, causing the spirit to run away. The ball flies through the air to find someone who is in a coma. Instead, it charged into Mun. Later that evening, he notices strange marks on his fingers, and at night he passes out and has a vision of a spirit called Wei Gen. Only, as soon as she holds her hands out, Mun wakes up. Elsewhere, the chairman, Jang Mo, tells the Noodle team that the white magic ball has been transported inside Mun, and they need to find him because he could be the new counter to fight alongside them. The next day, Mun runs into the bullies who began to tease him. Luckily, Ha-Na arrives and manages to thwart the threat without breaking a sweat and leaves with him. She takes him to their hideout, where Maoke explains that they work in the business of the afterlife. He is encouraged to close his eyes and visit the afterlife. This time, he is properly introduced to Wei Gen, who walks with him through the realms between the living and the dead, called Young. She manifests a white door and walks through, where she briefs him on his mission of catching evil spirits. It turns out that evil spirits live among the living and feed on the essence of their host. The spirits are attracted to people with bad tempers, and after killing the others, the spirits suck up their life force and become stronger. Wei Gen warns Mun that he could die and gives him the week to think before joining them. As he steps outside, he receives a call from bullies telling him to come to the gym, where they have captured Ung Min. He shows up alone at the gym, and the leader of the pack starts beating him. Eventually, he grabs the boy's fist. The bullies attack him once again, but Team Noodle shows up right in time to save him. Moments later, Mun wakes up at the Noodle restaurant and realizes that his leg is healed and now he can walk and even run like before. As the team continues talking, Hanan suddenly reveals that she has spotted a level 1 spirit, so she bolts out of the door to catch it with Maoke. Soon, the boys join them, and Mun spots a woman killing someone in a house and a boy near her. He takes the initiative though, and gets inside the house. Thankfully, he is able to save the kid. Meanwhile, Hanan draws the evil spirit out of the father. The group heads back, and later that night, Mun visits Young again. He decides to become a counter and accepts all the rules, but asks to meet his parents in return. The next day, the team calls him for a case, and Hanan briefs them as they prepare to stop another spirit. As the group reaches the target area, they go over the clues they have, including a description of the stonemason and a teenage girl. Not long after, Mun senses the spirit and heads towards him. The captor attempts to kill the girl, but Mun stops him. However, the man escapes, but they are able to track him, and the fight has begun. The territory appears, and Mun takes advantage of it and uses his strength to knock him down. He then summons the evil spirit and transports it to the afterlife. Later, the paramedics and the police are called. Mun reveals that his parents were officers too, and his father's name was Su Guan. This rings a bell for Mo Tak, but he can't quite put a finger on exactly where he had heard that name from. Later, he starts to have a glimpse of his past, where we see him waking from a coma 7 years ago. As he gets dressed, he happens to have a card in his pocket that's addressed to Su Guan. The next day, Mun arrives at school, and his friends question him over his changed persona. He eventually admits that he can walk now, but asks them to keep it a secret. At the noodle bar, Mo Tak realizes that he and Mun went into coma at the same date. Of course, he was the man on the rooftop, so whatever led up to that point is still unknown. He goes to the police station to know exactly who tried to kill him. He sees some documents which state that he tried to commit suicide. He immediately tries to contact the detective, Kim Jong-yong. who conducted the investigation, but in doing so, he recognizes a man from the past who happened to be on the rooftop the night he fell. Then he speaks with Kim about her sloppy investigation. Later, Mun is informed that his friends are captured by the bully. He arrives at the location and loses his temper after seeing his friends in a bad condition. A territory forms around him and he starts beating them. The rest of the crew show up and stop him before he can kill any of them. The police also arrive, and Mun refuses to accept the group's help and decides to take whatever punishment comes his way for his actions. He is taken to the station, where all the parents arrive and demand the police to punish him. However, Sugar Daddy, Jang Mul, and Ha Na arrive to take his side and swing the balance of power in his favor, whereas Kim takes Mutak's old phone out of storage at his request and hands it over to him. Moments later, Mayor meets Chairman Jeon, who is not happy because of him announcing the redevelopment project without his permission. Interestingly though, Sheol Jung's murderer, Cheong Sin, is seen tying Jeon at his home. And as he grabs a pair of scissors, we see Sin brutally killing him. Mun and Hana sense a level 3 spirit nearby, so they head out to capture her. Mun is the first one to fight her, but unfortunately he is knocked down pretty quickly. Ha-Na enters next, and the two wrestle and fight, but the spirit is able to beat her as well. Lastly, Motok comes and strikes the spirit across the face. He manages to get her in handcuffs and leaves with the kids. Later, Motok meets Kim and brings the photos he found on his old phone of a disappearance case. He wants her help in tracking down Kim Yong-nim. Together, they head to the abandoned building, and by using a UV scanner, they find splatters of blood. Kim receives a call and leaves for Jeon's murder case. Meanwhile, Chief Cho tries to cover up the case so his subordinates don't take the blame for it. Whereas, Ha-Na and Mun visit her old house and find two kids hiding there from their father. The officers show up at the house, and it leads the noodle crew to begin beating them down. Motok heads up and sees Chong-Yu in his car. As he crashes on the car, he seems to regain his memory and remembers fighting him on the rooftop. And it turns out that Chang-Yu stabbed him that night, and he jumped from the roof. Mun knocks down Chang-Yu, and later Ha-Na finds out that he has a brother named Hangu, and this guy happens to be an executive at Tiesin Group. Mun finds a memory card in his father's notebook. As he uses it on his phone, he sees footage of a group of cars traveling down a dark pathway. Back at their place, he sees a picture of the same dark pathway he saw in the footage, which makes him realize that his parents were murdered because they were trying to investigate Yeong-Nim's case. He is devastated to learn the truth and bolts from the shop. The next day, Ha-Na decides to help him. She holds his hand and gets an access to his former memories. They find themselves in the car at the exact moment of the accident. After the accident, a masked man steps out of the truck, and he is none other than Cheong Sin. Mun's parents' souls are swallowed by him, which proves that they never ascended the afterlife. Things are getting worse as Sin manages to control his vision and begins to stalk Ha-Na. Mun attacks him, but Sin grabs him by his throat. The fight begins, but Ha-Na manages to yank him out of the predicament before it's too late. Later, the counters find out Sin's hideout and decide to go there. Kim tags along too. They discover Sang-Pil's dead body, whom Sin has killed. Kim calls the police and media, so this time the case won't be covered up. Back at the noodle bar, Jang Mul briefs the team that the major companies, including Tyson Group and Daejong, were used as the slush funds for Sin. Suddenly, Chang-Yu shows up with the intention of taking Ga away. As he steps forward, Ga holds his wrist and sees visions of plans he and Hyung-gun have, including the mayor getting the presidency and a reservoir that shouldn't be exposed. Later, the group discovers a reservoir mentioned in Guan's book, and that could be the place where Yeong-Nim's body is buried. They head out without knowing that a tracker has been placed on the back. Han-Na senses a level 2 spirit, and he is actually her uncle, Song, and realizes that someone is about to die. Suddenly, they are blindsided by Chang-Yu, who rams his truck into their car repeatedly. Despite being smashed, the counters step out of the car and are ready to give him the beating of a lifetime. But he takes off before he can be beaten. Ha-Na rushes up to confront Song. She knocks him down, and Mun takes the spirit out of him. After deciphering the numbers in Guan's book, the counters finally learn about the reservoir. And as they arrive at the location, they find evidence of illegal dumping and contaminated groundwater. For now though, they head back and contemplate their next move. At night, Mun encounters Sin. And with that, today's recap comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed this mystery and fantasy Korean show. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.